Today I want to read an excerpt from a longer poem that I've written called On Becoming a Black Hole. The poem is a parallel between the birth and life of a star and my effective rebirth the night my mom passed away in my life. So I'm going to read part 2 of the poem, and this one is also from my book. Again, it's part 2 of On Becoming a Black Hole, part 2, Achieving Equilibrium, the boy. In the darkness, the boy closed his eyes, and sleep came to him as death, and it brought death before his eyes opened again. And in the same darkness, while the sun burned low beneath the horizon, he learned of it. She was not coming home. And the darkness moved into him, and it was heavy and expanded, full of confusion and death. And he was conceived in that darkness to be born again, but not of water or of the Spirit, and in his core it incubated. In embryo it waited, his new self, for the boy to lay it down, his old self. But in that moment, the crush of the expanding darkness was repelled by the oblivion of his grief and tears in a tenuous equilibrium. But his ears were filled with sadness and nothing else. And through his salty vision, the boy looked around and saw the sadness. There were so many tears, and he saw them all, but only a few hands to wipe them away, and those hands were earnest too in explaining the mysteries of God. He needed her, so God took her away. But his confusion only grew heavier because he needed her too, and had no other options. Confusion racked his heart increasingly, and the darkness grew massive proportionately. Its weight was unbearable and violent, crushing him inward in contraction. He was little still, and his body was soft still, and his soul was tender still, neither fortified yet to resist this offensive. And the equilibrium was lost, and so was the boy. He couldn't hold his boundaries, not on his own, and he was on his own. So he abandoned them, his boundaries, also his wants and needs, and laid his hand upon his mouth, and became nothing, and there was no light in him. Then, in an instant, he felt a calmness against the relentless contractions on all sides, and it radiated outward, and the pain stopped, and he was delivered from the darkness, and he was born again. His newness worn as a mask, but there was no crying at this birth. He wiped away his own tears. Also no wanting or needing as at his first, and no one questioned his silence. Instead, they welcomed it. It was a sign of a healthy boy, they reasoned, well-adjusted. Also, one less child to worry about. And the calmness expanded outward to every part of him, leaving an emptiness in the place where the darkness was. But he felt it as lightness and welcomed it. He shines now from his reflective mask of newness, and others are drawn to him to renew themselves. He shines for them and reflects them and makes no demands, but absorbs their praise of his conformity and converts it to euphoric energy that radiates outward in relief against the emptiness that grows heavy now and works to pull him inward. But he is just a boy and doesn't know the true cost of his sacrifice, or that one day he will pay the cost in full. But for now, he shines, and he is even. This poem, when I think about this poem, no child gets out of childhood unscathed. Every child, we live in an imperfect world. We're all imperfect parents, imperfect children. Everybody's imperfect. So no child gets out of childhood unscathed. The difference, though, I think, the difference really, my feeling, my experience depends upon the degree to which a child is seen or unseen. A child who is seen by their caregiver, whether that be a parent or whoever is raising the child, a child that is seen by their caregiver and heard and is able to express the sorrow and the pain or fear, whatever that child is experiencing, and feels that love and support. My experience has been that child is able to develop more and to become that person, to become who that child is, rather than wearing this mask of newness. And we all, I think, to some degree wear a mask. In the psychology world, I think that's kind of likened to our ego. My favorite poet, Rilke, he wrote a poem. He says, "We came of age. We came of age as masks," and I think that applies to all of us to one degree or another. But the degree of that mask really depends, I think, on the level to which we are seen and heard as a child. I think that's important. I think that's important that children are seen and heard. And that's what I had to share today. I hope you all have a good day. Thanks for listening. Until next time, thank you.